go here to Greg. Hey, Lee, is there a way to listen to some of your past Chargers broadcasts? I miss those classic touchdown San Diego. Great show, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I don't know how much of our play-by-play you could find on the internet. I do know one thing that we put together because I work with NFL Films on it. If you Google Chargers Road to the Super Bowl, they have, I believe it's about 28-minute feature on the Chargers Road to the Super Bowl, 94 season, the AFC Championship win in Pittsburgh. It's really cool. I had remembered it, then I had forgotten it, and somebody brought it to my attention about a year ago. It's there. So just go Chargers Road to the Super Bowl. It's produced by NFL Films. That's the biggest package that I know that's available. It's got all the highlights. I told him about it. He went crazy.
Yeah, it was great. And by the way, we have a recorded version of a recorded podcast that we haven't released yet about the Chargers Super Bowl season and the road to the Super Bowl. And so I'm looking forward to releasing that at some point.
We'll promote it. We've got a whole number of things in the hopper that we've been working on behind the scenes, and we'll tell you when we're going to launch that. But yes, there is a Road to the Super Bowl podcast that John, and actually it's a 2-segment podcast that we have done. Greg, thank you for the question. Next one.
All right, let's go to Dave Dog. He says, what do you think of the Raiders quarterback?
They're going to name a quarterback this week. I don't know who it's going to be. Gardner Minshew has got more experience, obviously, than Aiden O'Connor. I went back today and did some checking on Gardner Minshew's statistics. He throws touchdowns. I think he's thrown 58 touchdowns. He throws interceptions. He's thrown 24 picks. He's taken 78 sacks, which is a hell of a lot, and he's fumbled 30 times. Mr. Turnover. You know, I think, what was the word that I used to describe Gardner Minshew? Gunslinger?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little bit of all that. I think he's going to wind up being the guy because he has to be the guy because he's got more experience and he can make plays downfield, but he'll drive Antonio Pierce crazy if he's fumbling and taking sacks. I think he started I think he's played 48 games and he's taken 78 sacks. And he's turned it over just an absolute ton. So it's a big issue.
You remember back like when the Chargers had Drew Brees as the starter in the very beginning.
And Phillip Rivers was the backup.
Yeah, and then for a while, Flutie was in the mix there too. And I remember that Brees would fumble a lot, and it drove Schottenheimer crazy. Yep. And they ended up switching him out.
Yeah, well, Flutie was there before. Then Brees got drafted. Flutie started. Brees became the guy. Then Brees played, and he was competitive, but they weren't a great team at that time. They're trying to build this thing. And then he got hurt on the last game he played before free agency, and we thought, oh, my goodness, this is terrible. Suffered a terrible labrum injury, and who knew whether the surgery would work. And he had only one offer when he post-surgery, and he went to New Orleans, and then the rest is history. They made the investment. They took the gamble. Miami did not, and Brees became a superstar for Sean Payton. And then obviously after Brees left, then Rivers just gave us what I think might be a Hall of Fame type set of statistics over the course of his career. So Chargers were really fortunate. I mean, they went from a great legend in Fouts to a short period in which Stan Humphries got them there, then to Brees, then to Rivers.
Yeah, that was just a lot of great memories with the Chargers. But going back to the Raiders, do you think it's Minshew that's going to be QB1?
I think it has to be, only just because he's got the ability to put the ball in the end zone. But they've sure got, if they're going to throw the ball, I mean, they've got wide receivers all over the place, led by Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. They got 2 tight ends, including Brock Bowers from Georgia and a second-year kid, Mike Mayers. So they've got skill guys to catch the ball. They think they've fixed the offensive line. They've tried really hard, but I think they got a massive hole at running back because Josh Jacobs has gone to Green Bay. So I do think the defense is going to be better. I think Christian Wilkins coming in from Miami, I think what a theft that was to get him because he's big and he's active. He's not Aaron Donald, the Rams legend, but he's damn close to being Aaron Donald. So I think the Rams will be much better defensively, but I guess Minshew has to be the guy just based on experience.
Right on. Okay, let's keep moving on here. And this is actually a blast from the past. This is from Eric Groves. Hacksaw is the best. I was lucky enough to work at 690 in the 1990s, and I can confirm he is bleeping brilliant.
Thank you, Eric. You wrote it, or you read it just the way I wrote it when I emailed it to you. No. Thank you. Now, we worked really hard, and we did sports talk radio really different. And the longer it goes, the more I think a guy today on X put up a display of all the baseball trading cards they had of all of our talk show hosts.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really cool. And it was Arash McCarthy, who was a sports writer in Los Angeles, I guess was a 690 fan, and he collected all this stuff back in the day. All of a sudden it flashed up on my computer. I said, hey, that's pretty cool. It's, it's of me, of Hartman and 40 and Jim Rome and our morning shows, and Mason and Ireland and Mason and his other co-hosts. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, we did a lot of unique things. We don't appreciate how good that was till now. Most, decades upon decades since, and everybody else around the country now realizes how great 690 was. We didn't appreciate it. We didn't understand the iconic following that we were building nationwide. We were just a bunch of young guys coming to sports talk and arguing with each other and arguing with the fans.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, at a staff meeting at 690. Did you guys have them with you and Hartman and everyone else around a table?
Not very often. No.
No.
I had a different attitude. I don't read corporate memos and I don't go to corporate staff meetings. No,
you issue the memos.
No, we hardly had any staff meetings at all, unless it was something really special, like we're all taking the whole station to the Super Bowl and this is what all you guys are going to do and this is where you're going to be located. We didn't have very many, and they didn't interfere with us in terms of content. And our shows, we're going to do, I promise John, we will do just a separate podcast strictly on sports talk radio in San Diego. But our shows were so different. And that's what made us great, is every show had a different take, a different spin, a different persona, a different approach with different interests. It's not like today where all they want to talk about is the third catcher on the Padres roster or Aztec basketball. We covered everything. And of course, we were on a big signal from Baja to the Canadian Rockies. And that was true. I made that up, but that was true because you could hear us at night in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I don't know if I ever told you this. I got a cassette from a guy who listened to a Charger Rams preseason game I did. I don't know what year it would have been. Might have been 1990 something. He was listening and he taped it in Lapland, which is the northern part of Finland.
Oh.
The signal, it was a night game, signal bounced over the North Pole and it went to Finland. And I could hear it. It was crackly, it was noisy, but he actually taped it on a cassette and sent me the cassette. It was really, really cool.
From Baja to the Arctic Circle.
Lapland.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Thank you for the question, Eric. Good to talk to you again.
All right, let's go here to Vic. He says, the Chargers belong in San Diego.
Damn right.
They have no business playing for a city who was never for them. 56 years in a community should matter more than playing in another team's new stadium.
Well, bolt back, plain and simple. It was all about greed. It was all about the owners. And by the way, scoreboard, baby. The scoreboard does not lie. In 36 years of ownership of the Chargers, the first family of football, that's what they call themselves. The Spanos family has 13 winning seasons in 36 years. The scoreboard does not lie. I wish they were here. They belong here. Unfortunately, they left here. And that's on them. That had nothing to do with fans or the media. And for the first time in all the years I've been here, the city and county put together a financial package to build a new stadium, and Spanos turned his back and the league let him go to LA. So like I've said at the end of the day, and I understand there's counseling for this, there's medication for this. At the end of the day, I want Justin Herbert to go 17-0, and I want Dean Spanos to go 0-17.
That line never gets old. The NFL, will they ever expand, do you think?
I think they will again. But again, they're going to drive the price. So the projection is global expansion. The projection is London, maybe Mexico City. That's the projection. But the price tag is going to be astronomical because they're the NFL. And you could say San Diego, great market, great weather, but we have no stadium. Anybody coming in the front door would have to build a stadium, pay for the stadium, and then pay the expansion fee. And there's not going to be any franchise transfers. Buffalo's building a new stadium. Jacksonville's in the middle of renovation, will be a 3-year renovation for the Jaguars Stadium there in Jacksonville. So those franchises are no longer in play to move, and the Raiders have already gone to Vegas. So I just don't see it happening in our marketplace. We might have a better chance to get an NHL franchise when the new sports arena is built, because who's building it, paying for it? Stan Kroenke.
Right on.
And Stan Kroenke owns who? Colorado Avalanche, and a whole bunch of other pro sports franchises, quote, knows how to get it done. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I don't ever think the NFL's coming back to San Diego.
Too bad.
I do wonder if there any other city in America would get another team. Because I think, to your point, I think it's going to go international before it's another domestic.
There's not a lot of other places to go. And then you got the whole scenario of where they're going to play. And it's got to be new and it's got to be big. And who's going to pay for it if it is?
Right, exactly.
Thank you for the question. Hope you join us again, DJ.
Okay, let's go to Chris. I'm a Rams fan, but I've always followed the Chargers because of your bleeping brilliance. For the love of God, can the Bolts please be done with Easton Stick already? All I can think is he must have compromising photos of Spanos. React to me.
Well, I think he fit pretty well under the last offensive coordinator they've had. And that's the problem, is they have a new offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, who wants this thing built on pocket passing. And Stick is more of a creative guy, move the pocket, throw on the run, maybe some design quarterback run pass option plays, etc. I don't see that happening. And the fact that Easton Stick had 4 games last season, after all these years as being a backup and being in the meetings and practicing, he had 4 games. He could not get him into the end zone. Now, granted, it wasn't a very good team. They go 5-12 last season. But at the end of the day, kind of you reach the point, and now you have to be worried because Herbert is hurt. Herbert has a history of getting dinged. You better have a backup that can play within Greg Roman's system. So if they do something, maybe they go find somebody that was in Baltimore that ran Roman's system, or in San Francisco, an ex-49er guy, which is, I brought up C.J. Beathard. That's one of the reasons I brought up his name. So I have to evaluate this over the next couple of weeks, because in this league, your starter, there's a likelihood he's going to get dinged. You better have a guy who can come in and play that system. And I mean, they've been together since the beginning of OTAs, right after the draft in April. And we're deep into August now, and he played so poorly. Now, to me, that I'd be really worried. Now, that's not going to make or break the team, because you do have a superstar in Justin Herbert, but boy, got to be concerned about that.
You should give a call to the guys at Winnipeg Sports Talk and see if there's a CFL quarterback they could get.
They're struggling. They got 2 quarterbacks that I really like, and I think their record, I was amazed. The Blue Bombers I think they're 3-6. Which really stunned me, because I thought they might be one of the teams to beat in the CFL. But that's halfway through. They play an 18-game schedule, so we'll see the second half of the season looks like.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Richard. And he says, are these arm injuries a problem with the Dodgers pitching culture, or how they're developed in the minor leagues?
I think it's a wide variety of the pitchers they're throwing. As I mentioned early on, they just lost River Ryan, who had made 3 starts, had a 1.33 ERA. He's injured the forearm. He is the 6th young pitcher. I'm not talking about Kershaw. I'm not talking about the older relievers who got 100,000 miles on their arm. I'm talking young arm. He's the 6th young arm to go down with this, either elbow surgery or forearm strain. That leads me to believe it's the variety of pitches they're throwing. And maybe they need to back off so that not everybody's throwing the viciousness of the slurve, or what do they call it, sweeper. They need to examine each pitcher and the repertoire of each pitcher, because there's too many guys having surgeries. So to me, it's an issue. But the Dodgers, despite, River Ryan, like I said, he becomes the 18th pitcher to go on the DL this season in LA. That's major league and minor league. 18. That's unbelievable.
That's crazy. I mean, now just pretend that we brought Greg Maddux to the current day. His craftiness, he didn't throw that hard. Do you think he'd be successful today?
I think he would. I don't know that he'd want the grind. I mean, he enjoys retirement in Georgia and all that money he made. To be a coach, I mean, that's full-time job. I mean, that's every minute of every day. And you're trying to put out fires, and you're trying to deal with injuries, and you're trying to deal with the young pitcher's confidence, and you're examining video till your eyes fall out of your head. I mean, that's why I'm so impressed with Ruben Niebla, the Padres pitching coach. I think he's done just a hell of a job. And I like Mark Pryor. I think he's a bright light. He's the Dodger pitching coach, used to be here. But they need to examine what's going on with it. I mean, these 6 young pitchers all breaking down, all with pretty much the same thing. That means to me, what you're teaching them, or the pitchers you're asking them to throw, are creating this real problem.
I think so. I think you're right. I mean, you didn't mention the sweeper pitch. That's a new term. I think we started hearing that last year.
It's kind of a harder slider. You grip it harder. This is what was explained to me by a former pitcher, is you grip it harder, which puts more strain here because you're gripping it harder. and you're throwing it with a vicious whip action, which creates more pressure and explosion here. So the ball goes in and whoosh.
Wow.
I mean, if you watch that stuff on TV, I mean, the Padres broadcast is great because you're actually behind the mound and you can see where the pitches break. But you watch how wicked that stuff is. And these guys are throwing it. I will tell you, River Ryan made a comment yesterday, Sunday, that he felt he got hurt because of the pitch clock. Having to throw every 18 seconds or 20 seconds, and there's no time to stand on the mound. But I don't know what the big difference was between 24 seconds and 18 seconds in terms of having to get back up there and make the next pitch. But they have to evaluate what's happening to these guys.
It's like playing wiffle ball. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
With the ball doing all these crazy dips and dives.
Yeah, this at 102 miles an hour.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's go to James. James says, hey, how about Stetson Bennett for the Rams throwing 4 picks, almost a 5th, but comes back and throws a game-winning TD? That's the preseason.
Well, it is, and this is a guy that's not played in a year. He did no football-related stuff while he was away for, quote, mental health. And he had been through a lot of pressure-packed situations at the University of Georgia 2 years in a row, and then it just kind of caught up to him emotionally. But he's back. He's healthy. He's very thankful for the Rams standing by him while he took this year off. And he's back and he's competing. And they may need him because quarterbacks do get dinged. And he threw balls where he should not have thrown balls. He knows that. But this was his first live fire action since actually a year ago after he left at the end of preseason to take care of himself. So let's give him some space. Dude does compete. Holy cow. I mean, and he's mobile. I mean, he did some rollout stuff that was pretty kind of cool. He's very different than Matthew Stafford at 6'5", standing in the pocket, rifle and stuff. So he'll get his chance. Hopefully he'll stay healthy and can't have 4 pick games in the regular season, but you can live with it because he'll teach him through video. What'd you see? Why did you go there, etc.? What were your other choices? You should have just thrown the damn ball away. And the touchdown pass was weird. He ran left and he pulled up a la Patrick Mahomes and he slingshotted it right, going the other way. That thing could have been picked too, but it wound up being a touchdown pass with 6 seconds to go in the game.
Wow. Well, he's a winner, that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you think maybe the Chargers might make a trade to get a backup quarterback?
They could, trade a 7th round pick. You cut those guys anyhow. You have to find the right veteran that can run whatever Greg Roman is going to run. That's why I brought up C.J. Beathard, because he was in Frisco when Roman was there. Now, maybe there's somebody in the Baltimore Ravens pass. I mean, like I said, what's Joe Flacco's phone number? Although Flacco is under contract. He signed late with somebody right at the end.
Is he with Cleveland?
Might be, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he finished up in Cleveland when they ran through all the quarterbacks after Deshaun Watson's real bad labrum tear. At the end of the day, they need to make an evaluation on Easton Stick, and they need to make it quick because I was really disappointed. And I like that kid. And the kid was what that kid did in college football at North Dakota State was unbelievably impressive. And, his cameo appearances when Herbert couldn't play, he kept them on the field. He got him in the drives. But when he had to do it as the starter, they could not score touchdowns in the last 4 weeks of the season.
With a name like Easton Stick, you need to be successful, right?
On we go.
Let's go to David. Were there other sports this past weekend? Curry made France feel like most of the NBA felt in 2015, 2016.
He was amazing. Man, he was launching suckers from everywhere. He hit 3 threes in a row that just broke France's back. And prior to that, he's the one that bailed them out. They were down to the Serbs by 17, and he brought them back. He finished with 36. Curry is just unbelievably special. I can't imagine how hard it was for Steve Kerr to coach that team, because those are all superstars. And those are guys that always want to be on the floor at crunch time. And last I checked, there's one ball, as weird as the ball looks, and there's 5 guys. And he had to rotate through. And Tatum of the Celtics, the one with the ring,
yeah,
he hardly played at all. And the guards, not all the guards played with any consistency. So there was a juggling act, and I'm sure it was hard on Kerr because he had all these superstars in the room. He couldn't play them all.
Well, Kerr got the gold medal. He doesn't need to prove it again. Give someone else a shot. But yeah, that's a tough assignment.
Thanks for the call, David.
Okay, this is a 2-parter here. First from Winnipeg Sports Talk. How about Lee's Maple Leaf shirt? And then comment says, "Oh my God, Lee gagged me with a spoon with that shirt."
Well, obviously, Comet is not a Leaf fan. With all apologies to Montreal fan who hasn't won in how many years? I decided to be cool today. I will just full disclosure. It's 104 freaking degrees in San Diego. It is impossible. It's been like this since July 4th. So I decided I found this, I would wear it. Think cool. So coming over, I listened to one of my favorite channels on Sirius XM, the NHL channel. I'm cool again. I walked into John's house because John's got new doors and windows from Dixieline. It's nice and cool in his air-conditioned castle. So I'm cool. I'm okay today. Sorry you gagged on my shirt. I'll wear your jersey next time.
All right, here's another comment on the shirt. This is from Callan. All right, Saw, since you've got your Leaf shirt on, what happens to the roster if they once again fail to win it all? Can't always be the coach and front office's fault.
It's part of it. My assessment, and this is the old Canada network that's pouring in here today. Part of my assessment is team chemistry. Do you have the right mix around your superstars to make it happen? You do have Austin Matthews, 60-goal scorer. You do have Mitch Marner, paying an awful lot of money to an aging John Tavares. You can't get rid of those contracts. But what you have on your third and fourth line, John, is really important. Do you have the right chemistry guys who can pot goals? Do you have the right chemistry guys who are going to back check? Right chemistry guys who are going to do all the dirty and grit work when you need to do it come postseason? Do you have enough on defense? And do you have the right goaltending? That's an issue that will continue to be discussed. Maple Leafs got this high payroll, and they've got all these star players. It's only been since 1967. That was the last time they won a Stanley Cup. So it's been a long time. And now you see what's happened out west. You've seen what happened in Edmonton. And yet, look how hard it is for the Oilers to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they haven't won one, and they got the generational player of all time in Connor McDavid, and they got the right guy next to him and Leon Draisaitl, and their third and fourth lines are pretty damn good, and they got a young goaltender that's grown into the position. So it's just tough to get there. It's tough to win it. It's really tough to repeat. So I think Brendan Shanahan, who's the president of the Leafs, I think they got 1 year left. Now, granted, they can't blow this thing up because they committed all this money to all these guys, but this is not so much on Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner as it is on the support people around them, and do you have the right guy in goal? Big question. They better be there next year.
Toronto is a great city.
Oh,
I mean, my wife and I, we were visiting there about a year and a half ago, had a great time. We were at the top of the CN Tower, right next to where the Blue Jays played. But there's just a lot of great culture. It had kind of a New York City / San Francisco vibe.
It's very cosmopolitan.
Yes,
that's
very much so. Word.
Another city is like that. Here we go talking Canada. Vancouver. Vancouver is just really different. And Vancouver, it's become a pretty good hockey city again because the Canucks got real good. Thank you, Rick Tocchet. But Vancouver is very dynamic intellectually. And I spent time in Vancouver. I really like that. So I spent a lot of time in Toronto. Montreal and Quebec City are cut from a different cloth because that is French. And that's really cool, but you have to be able to handle the French language because I was there doing hockey back in my younger days in career. They would not talk English to you. No parler anglais. Have to talk French. But great, oh God, great history. All right, that's enough on Canada.
Okay,
Callum, thank you.
Let's go here to John, talk Padres. The Padres have hit the gas and are playing as a team. I don't think Mike Schilt gets the credit for the chemistry this team has. Should be manager of the year.
I think he'll get some consideration. They do have the rookie of the year in center field, what Jackson Merrill has done. But what's different, and John and I talked about this over coffee off the air, what is different about Padre baseball at this moment, they have their stars and they have their injuries and they've gotten beyond that and they've made all these trades to get the support. What is different is the bench bunch. Because if there had not been a Donovan Solano, if there had not been a Kyle Higashioka, the catcher, if there had not been David Peralta, this team would have been in trouble because they've saved their bacon during the second half of the season because of the injuries. And the season's a 162-game grind. And they've got support talent that has really helped them. So this, for all the trades that general manager A.J. Preller has made, some I've liked, some I've critiqued, this might have been the best in-season group of acquisitions AJ has ever made, because it's made a massive difference in depth and team chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, even Tyler Wade has been really good. Even though he banged up his nose a few nights ago. The Bryce Johnson, I'm not so sure about him, the backing up in right field, but you're noticing how he's starting to use the depth of the AAA system for the bullpen. We saw Johnny Brito, we've seen Sean Reynolds. So he's trying to, give some of those bullpen guys a break.
Well, he's got to give them a break because, as I said, when I started this road trip and they went to Pittsburgh and they had the 2-hour, 46-minute rain delay, and Dylan Cease pitched 1 inning and had to sit. They could not bring him back. That screwed up everything because that first game in Pittsburgh became bullpen day.
Right.
And they burned, how many pitchers they used in a game? 8? It
was something like that.
It was terrible. They made 15 calls to the bullpen in 3 games in Pittsburgh. And suddenly, now you're breathing hard. Now you're going into Miami, and then your starters struggle a little bit in Miami, and you just can't keep going back to the bullpen that often. Granted, they had some guys who got options. You bring them up. But see, that's what's complicated about baseball is you got a 25-man roster, but you have 40 on your organizational roster. But if you got somebody in the farm system that's pitching well and you don't want to bring them up and they're not on the 40, to get them on the 40, you got to bump somebody off the 40, which means you got to put somebody on waivers, which means you might lose a young prospect, or you might take a gamble on a veteran to get them off, to get this guy on who's Sean Reynolds comes on and he'll be here for 4 days. But to get him on the 40 and then get him into the 25, there's a whole series of moves you have to make. So it's quite complicated calculus moving players off the roster.
Did you see the game where Carl Edwards Jr. got in?
Yeah.
I mean, he looked mentally overwhelmed by the opportunity.
And he's a veteran. I mean, at one point, he was a very good setup closer with the Cubs, and his game unraveled. He was here before and didn't pitch worth a lick. And I think he's been with 4 teams this season. Now, that was an emergency call-up. And again, they had to get him on the roster on the 40 to get him here out of El Paso. Then they had to get him on the 25. So you had to make a couple roster changes to make that happen. Now, you can do some of that by putting a guy on the DL, but you still got to create space on the 40-man roster. So it's very complicated math to make it happen. But farm system, to get back to your original point, there's some guys at the bottom of the pitching staff that have, Adam Mazer bought him some starts. And of course, they since traded him. But that's the bottom of the roster. That's not a difference maker in the pennant race. That's just to buy you an appearance or two so somebody who's gassed or somebody who's hurt can come back.
Well, then now Randy Vasquez is at AAA.
But he had options left.
Yeah.
Now, if he didn't have options left, they would not have brought Brito back. And they brought Brito back. He had an 8.44 ERA in El Paso. I thought, what? But again.
And he pitched well.
He was on the 40.
Yeah.
So that's how they could call him up from the 915 area code.
So it's just kind of like a cycle at the bottom of the list. Yes. And I think it's interesting how they pull that off.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for the call, John. Next one.
Okay. We're keeping going here, Lee. You like these long podcasts. Okay. Here's an interesting comment, and it was from Jason. He says, also, Lee, I've looked for the road to the Super Bowl many times and can never find the one you talk about. We're going to have to look that up and maybe share the link.
Well, if you Google NFL Films, Chargers, Road to the Super Bowl, or Chargers 1994, Road to the Super Bowl, it should be. I stumbled upon it on the internet, and it's pretty bloody hard for me to navigate through all the stuff. I did it. So just try it that way. Maybe try NFL Films, Chargers, Road to the Super Bowl. Maybe you'll be able to find it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go hunting for
You're
that.
You're the IT guru in this podcast.
That's who I am. Yeah, so I'm going to go hunt for that thing because I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
And I should share it with you, and then you could put it out on Twitter, and that way the fans can follow along.
All righty.
All right. Hey, let's sneak in a few social media comments in here. And okay, let's go here. The Chargers Raiders. This is from Digo. He says, Raiders hung 60 on them. The Raider fan is still bringing up that game from last year when they went crazy.
Oh, that was unbelievable. I sat there and watched it and said, my God, John will remember, because when I write my one man's opinion column for my website, which you need to read every day, I said, I want you to put this up on the website, and then we'll send it to the people that are part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. And if you recall, the first sentence of that column was, I expect your resignation on my desk by 9 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And at 9:05, they fired Brandon Staley. And then at 9:15, they fired Tom Telesco.
Look at you, the prognosticator.
I know what I know.
You're like Chris Berman, man.
So anyhow, that was great, but that was only one game.
One game.
And so the Chargers are going to be different this season. I mean, if you wish to argue with me over beers about who's the better team, sorry, it's still the Bolt. The reason is they got Justin Herbert. And the reason not for you guys is you got the gunslinger who's sometimes good, sometimes bad, throws touchdowns and throws interceptions and turns the ball over. We're talking about Gardner Minshew. So we could argue about that over beer.
Yeah, Raider fans are going to be feisty this year. Hey, this is another comment. I thought this was good. And this is from Mark, and he's talking about the whole Harbaugh controversy. And he says, the recruiting charges are breakfast during COVID with a recruit, a $100 charity donation to a recruit's parents' charity golf outing, and getting a recruit verified on Instagram. These are minor violations. Harbaugh is being punished for saying he didn't remember this stuff and then refusing to sign something saying that he lied. If those seem awful to you, that's fine. They seem like less than nothing to me. As far as Stallions, there is zero evidence that any coach had knowledge of anything Stallions did. There might be future evidence, but there is none as of now.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to buy your sales pitch. Does this guy's area code, does that read Ann Arbor, Michigan on it? At the end of the day, Sharon Moore and another assistant coach had to turn over their devices. The devices had 52 text messages relating to the violations in the COVID era and relating to Connor Stallions. That's why Sharon Moore is probably going to get suspended again and has already been suspended. So that's a big issue. The second item is that Harbaugh professes innocence. If you're innocent, then turn over your electronic devices like all the other people at Michigan did and prove that you're innocent, that you don't have anything to hide. Except if there were text messages between his coordinators about this game plan and this is what we have, and it was all linked to Connor Stallions, the illegal scouts text messages to the assistant coaches, then he's kind of implicated. At the end of the day, he is the head coach. He is the CEO. He probably knows everything about everything that would happen in Michigan football. So I'm not buying the theory, I know nothing.
Well, imagine if you had Harbaugh's phone and you were able to go through all of his text messages. Think of the things that he would be on there. I mean, probably crazy stuff that he definitely doesn't want to see getting out.
Well, at the end of the day, you just turn over the text messages as it relates to your correspondence with Minter, your defensive coordinator, and Moore, your offensive coordinator, and then NCAA will just link whether or not that's got something to do with the messages they got from Connor Stallions. The fact that the assistant coaches have turned over all their devices and have been disciplined. So I think it's much more deeper than a breakfast burrito hamburger or anything like that. I think it's much more deeper than that. All right, let's take one more here.
One more. All right, let's go here to a comment about the Padres. And this is from Nando. He says, "Okay, dude, your top players are in their primes now. When you're in a win now team, prospects are meant to be traded for MLB ready players. Preller is the reason why the stadium is packed every home game. It's electric at Petco Park now, and it hasn't been that way in over a decade."
I buy most of what you say. My only concern is Major League Baseball you want to win right now. That's what Preller's doing. But you want to have a system in place. When your older players are done, you've got young prospects to replace them, and he's traded them all away. 14 of the top 16 in the farm system are gone. He's also grossly overpaid for virtually everybody he's gotten, whether that's veteran contracts. They're on the hook for you, Darvish, till the age of 42. They're on the hook to Xander Bogaerts, who I think is a proven pros pro, till he's 41. They're on the hook to Manny till he's 40. That's a lot of downside years that you're still going to be on the hook for. And the fact that he's traded everybody away that he drafted and signed in the international area, and he overpaid to get all those guys. So the business part of his job, to me, doesn't link up. And you can say, oh, go get more players. Now, if the owners are reeling in the payroll, and they're at 166 right now. Next year might be even lower. If they're reeling in the payroll, he's going to have less money to use to go get more people. So it's his money. It was Peter Seidler's money, I should say. I'm not barking. It's been great for the community. It's been good. But what is the you want to win right now, but John Riley, what is the bigger picture? I think that has to be part of the equation.
But Padres need to win. I mean, that's what I mean. We are so starved for championships in San Diego. But, yeah, he's got big money tied up with a lot of players, but you got Profar in $1 million deal. You got Jackson Merrill, rookie salary. You got a lot of other guys with low salaries. And now that Cronenworth package is actually looking like a bit of a bargain, So I'm ecstatic about what Preller's putting together here. But I'll tell you what, on Instagram, people are angry with you. They're saying, first you want Preller's head, and then you're praising Preller, and they're going crazy.
I'm critiquing what I'm observing. I'm entitled to have, it's a First Amendment, right?
Yes.
I'm entitled to have a First Amendment right to an opinion about the way he does his business. And when he does well, I praise him. And when it doesn't work out, I let you know and let him know about it too. All right. I'm not going to argue with you. This is a great podcast, and we love having you on Fans Forum. By the way, okay, here's how you find the road to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you looked it up?
Yes. So you Google YouTube Chargers Road to the Super Bowl, 1994 from NFL, 1984 from NFL Films.
94.
94. I said, why does it say 84? Road to the Super Bowl, Chargers, San Diego Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, February 8th, 2024, I think is when it was last posted. But that's the road to the Super Bowl. So just dial in YouTube, Chargers, Road to the Super Bowl. Maybe that'll take you with it, because I got it right here.
Well, we'll share it with the Hacksaw's Twitter All-Stars program, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. John will figure how to get it to me, and I'll figure a way to get it on X.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. We love having you a part of Fans Forum. Do us a favor, will you? Share. Tell everybody what we're doing Mondays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. West Coast time.